Hi, this is Joe Chambers. Welcome to Musicians Hall of Fame Backstage. Today's show is part two of a two-part interview we did with John Sebastian. We picked back up where we left off at Woodstock 1969. John accidentally ends up on stage in front of 500,000 people. I do want to say another thing about John. I'm a huge Tom Petty fan, for those of you who know me. And the fact that Tom Petty covered one of John's songs, The Stories We Could Tell, is another reason that he's one of my favorite people. Also, when John walked on stage at Woodstock, he was dressed in a multicolored T-shirt and jeans, tie-dyed. And a friend of his, a girl, had taught him how to tie-dye, and that started the whole tie-dye craze. Matter of fact, our best-selling T-shirt, our tie-dyed T-shirt, thank you, Victoria, would not exist were it not for John Sebastian. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy it, please hit like, subscribe, and the notification bell so you don't miss any of our new content. Once again, John Sebastian. Welcome back to Musicians Hall of Fame Backstage with John Sebastian. And when we cut away, you had just got on the stage at Woodstock, and they were needing somebody while it was raining to clean the stage off. What happened?
Well, they also needed somebody to play while people were cleaning up the stage, and I was just listening to these guys talk and kind of nodding, and I finally turned and looked left and right and realized they're both looking at me. And I said, guys, I didn't bring an instrument. I don't even have a capo. And they go, well, you have several minutes to find one downstairs. And sure enough, there were a lot of people downstairs with guitars, and my old pal Timmy Harden had done his set and was kind of kicked back. And I said, Tim, think I could borrow that Harmony Sovereign? He said, yeah, you could. And so I took that instrument upstairs and was on stage in another few minutes and experiencing that amazing crowd.
I mean, you don't just kind of unexpectedly very often get in front of 400,000 or 500,000 people without a guitar. I mean, what did you think? I mean, what was going through your head, you know?
Well, I was thinking, I wish I had my real guitar. That was one thing. But I don't want to overplay this, you see, because a lot of people think of this as, oh my God, you're doing something different when you're working in front of 500,000 folks here. But I say, no, you're working the same job as when you have 6 people in a club, and especially at Woodstock. The mood was so singularly focused that it felt easy to address and sing for that many people.
I've read that some people say that you went on the first day, but now you're saying that you definitely went on the second.
On Saturday. And there is a lot of, hey, a lot of stuff that wasn't remembered.
Yeah. So, did Santana go on after you or before you? Do you remember that?
I think they went on after.
So
yeah, because they couldn't go on, well, unless it was a long time before. Yeah, these details I'm not good on.
Yeah. It's just, because the Santana was supposed to go on at night, and then they got forced to go on because somebody, they just had to go on early.
Yeah, somebody didn't show and they had to bounce.
And of course, Santana said, well, I can't. I just dropped some mescaline and and because he said that his guitar neck was turning into a snake on him the whole time, So, but it turned out to be one of the greatest performances that everybody talks about was, so, it's kind of like, I think when somebody is made a hero because of circumstances. I think that had they gone on at night, you wouldn't have seen the crowd that you saw on that.
True enough, and you wouldn't have been able to get that much body language from the players. Yeah.
Right, yeah. So, and whatever they took, they were able to control it, or either it enhanced them. I don't know, but because that was my favorite, band on the show, you know. So what happened? I mean, the movie came out like March of '70. Did you get feedback from a lot of that? Did you see a resurgence?
I did not work inside for about another 2 years. Every gig, every lonely bastard that wanted to try to imitate Woodstock, except we'll get them to pay. This is going to be great. And of course, something would go wrong, and the people would break down. They go, "No, we want it like Woodstock." And anyway, I did play for 2 years, really, where that was how I was playing, was one guy, one guitar, to a large outdoor, usually, crowd.
By the way, what happened to that guitar that you played?
You know, Timmy Hardin did not have the same respect for guitars that you might find in a situation like this. So, first of all, he wasn't interested when I called up and said, "Hey, I've got your harmony. I'm going to try to get it back to you." Good, okay. But really, I think it was about 3 months before I got that instrument back to him. You know, and part of it was that we weren't crossing paths as much. And so the story is, Timmy got the guitar back, and we will never know, because Tim would take a guitar, do a gig, and then sell it for dope.
Wow. Well, that answers that question.
Yep.
Like we talked earlier, I loved the Ed Sullivan Show. I mean, it was more than just a show. Now, you know, you look back on it, so many people got their introduction to the world on that show, and you know, the Beatles kind of made it. But even before the Beatles, you know, had Beach Boys and James Brown, and everybody was on that show. How many times were you guys on that show as 11 Spoonful?
You know, I haven't kept exact count, but I guess it was 5 or 6.
Yeah, at least, I'm sure. Yeah. What was that like? I was asking Felix Cavallari, you know, what his take was on it, and Gary Puckett, and everybody has their own different take on it. What was yours?
All right, you got to remember that the Spoonful were relentlessly counterculture. That was how we felt we were, and we were enjoying being that. And so when we got the invitation to go on the Sullivan Show, of course we were thrilled, but on the outside we had to go, "Oh yeah, you know, that's so conventional. Oh, you know, and the guy knows nothing about music. It's going to be just a crashing bore, you know." And okay, we get to the show, we do the rehearsal, we get ready to do the show. Ed Sullivan comes on and did that first introduction, explaining this is the American answer to, you know, all of these English acts, and,
right,
you know, kind of explaining it. And we're looking at each other going, "You mean we have to like Ed now?"
Yeah.
We can't be sarcastic about him anymore. And we never were sarcastic about him again.
He seemed like he was very fond of y'all.
He did seem to be very fond.
Yeah.
I was delighted by that.
Yeah. So, what happened? Like, you know, Woodstock. You know, you told me what happened after that. What happened when you were after you were on the Sullivan Show? Did you see? Did it?
Well, yes, any appearance on the Sullivan Show would improve your visibility, literally, and also it would raise whatever price you had for a live concert.
Your guitar player, Zal
Yanovsky.
I couldn't hardly not take my eyes off him on that show. I mean, he was animated, you know. On top of being a good guitar player, I mean, were y'all playing, or were you lip syncing for real?
That varied as time went on. In the beginning, it was all lip syncing. Then by maybe the second or third time we did the show, we would cut a track in the afternoon, mm-hmm, and sing live. Mm-hmm. And then towards the end, and especially when we were, I think, right around Daydream, we ended up where we were actually playing the entire arrangement live and just doing it.
What was he like in real life?
Well,
Zal.
Zalman was a character. I've often said that it was like having a fabulous guitar player and a tumbler. And that might not be regionally knowledgeable, but that was the guys in the Jewish Alps, in those hotels, who would get up in the morning and go out and go, okay, girls, let's go. We're going into the swimming pool. We're going to do our exercises, and just keep this dialogue going so that, you know, people would be entertained. Well, I think Zali had that quality.
Yeah, he would do the goofiest things.
I think it was maybe the third or fourth appearance on Sullivan, and they're still lip syncing. Yes, the second single. So we're still lip syncing, and the camera pans, and I'm dutifully saying, "You didn't have to be so nice," and then it goes to Joe, who's singing the echo, didn't to be so nice. Then it goes to Yanovsky. The camera pans and he goes.
Yeah. I was wondering what the heck he was saying there.
That's what he was saying.
Oh, my God.
I'm not singing.
Oh, that's great. Well, that was great. So.
Yeah, this is one of the great unheralded guitarists. The unfortunate fact that he was the guy that got busted for probably pot that they were trying to get to me.
But you weren't there.
I wasn't there. I wasn't even in the same city. Yeah. But it because nobody really researched it to find out how much energy he put in trying to get this guy off, which we thought would be easy. Great. You know, get busted, then we buy a very expensive lawyer and we get you off. But the guy wanted more of a countercultural lawyer who wanted to legalize pot that year. So none of these things were really possible. It was too bad. And the result of it is, you don't see the Lovin' Spoonful at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I walked all 3 floors except for the top floor where the real modern stuff is. I know my auto harp's in there somewhere, but this is the payment. This is the dues that the Spoonful had to be part of.
Oh, it's a shame.
Yeah.
You played harmonica with Crosby, Stills and Nash, right?
I was making my living mostly as a harmonica player because there were so many great guitarists in the village. I mean, I was learning, but I might have been a steady finger picker, but, you know, some of the real exciting stuff, that was always Yanovsky.
You played on Deja Vu album.
Yes, I did.
And you played on the song Deja Vu.
Correct.
That's probably one of my top 5 albums of all time. I had to have it as a vinyl and then as an 8-track and a cassette. I mean, I listen to it daily.
Yeah,
I was just telling my assistant Victoria, I go home, eat dinner, and Alexa, play Deja Vu. You know, it still sounds as great today. But your harmonica playing on that was awesome, man. It was just.
Well, thank you.
It was great. Also, you did
Roadhouse Blues.
You played with the Doors, but under a different name, though, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That was a request from Paul Rothschild. He was not anxious to advertise the fact that a member of the Spoonful was playing on a Doors record. I'm going to get in trouble here. But luckily, the real incentive was that Paul said, Lonnie Mack is going to play bass. I said, I'll be there. So that was a wonderful session in that it was real live, and Jim was behaving himself, and it was a doable project. And I ended up doing a few other things with them as the years went on.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people don't know that they, even though Ray played bass keyboard, Larry Knechtel, who we were looking at earlier, played bass on a lot of their stuff because he was a keyboard player, and he could also play the string bass on the recordings.
Yes.
And Jerry Sheff played bass with him too, who was Elvis's Vegas bass player. So before we wrap up here, welcome back, Kotter. How did that happen?
That happened in the most conventional way. There was a producer who was looking for a songwriter, and he calls his old friend an agent by the name of Dave Bendett. Well, Dave Bendett had only 2 weeks before taken me on at the beginning of his career as a manager. Mm-hmm. He had always been in agentry. And so it's two Brooklyn guys talking and making jokes. And Alan Sachs, the producer, says, well, we're trying to find a New York writer for this thing because it's got a very New York feel to it, and so we've got a tune from Dion DiMucci. I hear about this and I go, oh, for God's sake, don't start me that way. He's going to sing. It doesn't matter what it is. He'll sing it. It'll sound fabulous. So I went down to Burbank. I was living in Laurel Canyon at the time, and I'm presented with a few rough takes of what would be the Kotter show. Mm-hmm. And it was called Kotter. So I saw the various rough cuts and everything, and I said, fellas, this is a really good idea. This is a great premise, but don't make me write something that has the word Kotter in it, because nothing rhymes but otter, and you just know where to go. And also, it limits the song. It makes it about the television show. I didn't go into this in great detail, but this was one of the things that I knew, because I wanted to have a hit song with a television show that I wrote.
Right.
So the thing, it was like overnight. I actually did a demo on one of those, in the old days when we used to take two ghetto blasters, and you do one thing on one and then you dub it on the other and so on. By that next day, I had a version of Welcome Back, which I went in and I played for them. And I did the part of the conversation I remember is they now brought in a couple of suits who were, kind of listening to this, and they go, so Mr. Sebastian, you heard this idea yesterday. I said, yeah. And you went home and you wrote this and did a demo, and it's only like 11 o'clock in the morning and you've got this thing. They were sort of enjoying the fact. I said, yeah, that's right. I said, how did you do it that fast? I said, fellas, I was a sweat hog. Because I was a dyslexic kid, and I was always in that class that said, we find John to be an intelligent boy. We can't figure out why he can't get through an ancient history course. Yeah,
I had to go back and read everything 4 or 5 times because I realized I was daydreaming while I was reading it,
Oh, you got the curse, man.
Yeah, I know. But I was socially promoted out, I think. But Anyway, hey, thank you so much for doing this, man. I really appreciate it.
Well, I
And,
sure have had a wonderful time wandering around your joint.
well, man, I appreciate you coming in. And again, thank you so much for being here. And
You bet.
we'll see you next time on Musicians Hall of Fame Backstage.